Sometimes when we go back and revisit the things from our childhood, they don't seem as good as we remember them to be. But what happens when that thing from your childhood was outrageous? I mean truly, truly outrageous. Find out as we attempt to prove to you that Jem and the Holograms is not that bad. Welcome one and all to It's Not That Bad, the podcast that looks for A grades in B movies. Now, before we get started here, I need to put out a disclaimer. My lovely wife, Carrie, is probably going to do the majority of the talking on this one. So I'm going to put it out there and say it's probably going to be everyone's favorite episode because she's doing the most talking, because we are revisiting her childhood as we talk about Jem and the Holograms. So Carrie, how excited for this episode are you today?
My 8-year-old heart goes boom. I am loving that we are talking. Actually, I'm shocked. I'm shock-loving. I'm shaloving that we're talking about Jem.
You're shaloving?
I'm shaloving.
Well, at least you didn't say you're shoveling because the snow hasn't hit yet. It's funny because keep in mind, we are talking about the live action full feature film that didn't last that long in theaters, and surprisingly, we never actually saw it in theaters. Didn't last that long. Barely realized it existed.
It wasn't until yesterday. I was yesterday old when I finally got around to watching this gem of a movie.
Oh, you went there.
I did.
A, you stole my line. B, you dad joked your way through that one. So you are literally taking my entire shtick for this show. Basically, I think Carrie should be the one hosting the show. So it almost feels like we should be like switching roles here, and she should be the one actually introing the show. But
I'm taking over.
We're already a couple of minutes in anyway, so we're just going to keep on going with the way. We should have organized this a little bit better, shouldn't we have?
You would think that we would have talked before recording, but no.
We're supposed to talk?
Yeah.
I mean, I recognize we're husband and wife and all that, but we're supposed to talk? Like when not recording?
That's never a good thing. It's like, okay, now we need to talk.
Oh,
what?
no.
Oh,
yeah. When all of a sudden one of you says, yeah, we need to talk, run.
Okay, you just know that it would be, okay, how much? How much is it going to cost me?
And at what point is the Jem 80s collectible toy convention coming through?
Oh, God. Don't even bring up the collectible figurines that I had them all. You know what? I was thinking about it. I'm like, if only I had just hung on to that little piece of my past.
Right?
Or even my, flashing Jem earrings.
Oh, wow. You went that far.
I had the earrings.
I have to ask, did you have the Rockin' Roadster as a kid?
No, you know what? Don't bring that up. That's very painful memory.
Oh.
I did. One Christmas, that was all I wanted. All that I wanted. And I think I got some kind of a Barbie Cadillac. It was not. No. Thanks for trying, Mom and Dad. Really, I do appreciate, and I don't mean to sound ungrateful, but it was not the Jem Rockin' Roadster.
Oh. At the same time as this is a movie review podcast, apparently it's also a therapy session for Carrie.
It is. Some very, very painful memories and very dear memories. Like we were talking about before we started recording, I was reminiscing about Saturday mornings. I would put on my Jem flashing earrings and curl up into my Jem sleeping bag, lining up with one side my Jem and the Holograms figurines, and the other side was the Misfits, the full complete set. I had them all, and we would watch whatever episodes of Jem were on TV, and yeah, And it was just the most, and eating cereal. We were talking about eating Fruity Pebbles cereal, that Saturday morning memory. So,
for the record, by the way, if you were a Jem fan and you do want to go back down that road, the cartoon episodes are available on Tubi. When we actually, before, getting ready to record this episode, we actually went back and watched like the very first Jem episode last night on Tubi, and slightly different.
And side note, if anybody out there listening has the Jem figurine set, ideally, let me know. We'll talk if you wish to part with that little piece of your childhood. I am a suitable buyer. I am looking I am looking for that little piece of my childhood that I have long lost and parted with. So.
That being said, if you try to pass off any Barbie vehicle as the Rockin' Roadster, she will straight up punch you.
I also, since we're confessing, I had the full set of NKOTB figurines as well and parted with them. So
see, I'm just dreading now the day where we have to talk about a Transformers movie and you have to relive the fact that you had a GoBot.
Oh, that was harsh. That cut deep.
I know, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so before we get into actually talking about the movie version of Jem and the Holograms, it is time to take this 2015 remake and trailerize it.
From the director who took Justin Bieber, an internet sensation turned pop star, and put him on the big screen, comes a fictional movie about an internet sensation turned into a pop star in the big screen adaptation of Jem and the Holograms. Aubrey Peoples goes from Nashville to LA in this modern day retelling of the 80s Saturday morning cartoon that's more colorful than G.I. Joe and so tonally different from the source material you'd think it was produced by Michael Bay. You'll grab your crimping iron, put on your bright pink wig, and sing and dance your way through this Blumhouse production. Wait. Blumhouse did this? Blumhouse. The same people who did The Purge, Paranormal Activity, that Blumhouse, Black Phone, Get Out, that Blumhouse? Well, that explains the angst. Well, where was I? Oh, yes. Grab your bowl of cereal and feety pajamas and get ready for Jem and the Holograms. Rated PG for pink glitter.
Okay. Let's be fair. Nobody had to die in this movie and nothing was blown up. So,
which surprises the crap out of me, the fact that this is actually, co-produced by Blumhouse Pictures. Like, for reals. Like, you take a look at some of the films that Blumhouse has put out, right? Like I said, Get Out, The Purge, Paranormal Activity. None of those scream Saturday morning cartoons.
Black Phone.
Right?
Whoa.
I'm just going to put this out there, okay? Jason Blum, who is listed as a producer on this film, was an executive producer on The Green Inferno. Like, we're talking about a film about cannibalism. And he co-produced Jem and the Holograms.
Did he lose a bet?
I don't know. It feels like it, doesn't it?
Was it a dare? Like, it sounds like it was a drunk dare.
That's like him and Eli Roth sitting around Eli Roth going, I told you Green Inferno was going to suck, and now you have to make Jem and the Holograms. Okay, I'll do it.
He lost a bet.
I'm starting to think so. This film stars Aubrey Peoples. A lot of people remember her from the Nashville TV series, of which, of course, she played a singer. Stephanie Scott, Aurora Perrineau, Haley Kiyoko, Ryan Guzman, Molly Ringwald, and Juliette Lewis. It also features cameos by Samantha Newark, who was the original voice of Jem. She played a hairstylist in this. Christy Marks. In this film, she played Lindsay Price, who was the editor from Rolling Stone. She is the creator of the Jem and the Holograms cartoon, and Britta Phillips, who was Jem's singing voice for the 80s cartoon. She was a stage manager in this. Also, it is the film debut of Kesha, who played Pizzazz in the mid-credit scene. By the way, spoilers like a mofo, you've been warned. Apparently, Kesha is a massive Jem fan, and she lobbied hard to get into this one here.
Oh, I love that. Mad respect.
Kudos to Aubrey Peoples. She actually did her own singing for this one. Actually, a lot of the song credits are listed as by Jem and the Holograms, with, especially Aubrey Peoples and Stephanie Scott listed as being featured on the song. So kudos to them for, literally lending their voices to this. This film was directed by John M. Chu, and if the name sounds familiar, he's actually got a decent resume. He, of course, directed the aforementioned Justin Bieber's Believe, which, sorry, I had to bring that up. But this also isn't his first Hasbro rodeo, because he is the director of G.I. Joe Retaliation. He also directed Crazy Rich Asians, In the Heights, and Now You See Me Too. So he actually has a decent filmography under his belt. I have to point out the G.I. Joe Retaliation, because he said in an interview at one time that he wanted to do a crossover that included Jem and the Holograms, G.I. Joe, and Transformers. And I'm just thinking, how the were you going to do that one?
Whoa, that's like the all Saturday lineup.
Well, keep in mind too, all three were Hasbro properties, right? So, I mean, from a rights perspective, you could do it. From a reality perspective, I have zero idea how you were going to pull that one off. Like you're right now, you're like slack jawed going, how?
Wow.
Just how? I mean, I can't really say anything because I know out there in existence, there is a comic book, which is a crossover between Transformers and My Little Pony, of which, again, how? Like, how? Like, Optimus Prime on the cover of a comic book with a bunch of My Little Ponies. I swear I did not do any illicit drugs before going into the comic book shop to see this. This is an actual thing that exists. Like, I get when you have a bunch of properties that are under the same umbrella that you're going to want to actually try to find a way to put them together, because everything, of course, is a cinematic universe. Thank you, Kevin Feige. To the point of they were actually working on putting together a Hasbro cinematic universe, or a Hasbro shared universe. It was supposed to be G.I. Joe and the Micronauts and Mask and Visionaries and Rom the Space Knight, which I really want a Rom Space Knight movie. Please, someone make this happen. But then they put out G.I. Joe Origin Snake Eyes, and I think that they took a look at the reception of that and said, yeah, we're going to put this on the back shelf here. But I can just imagine like the straight up acid trip that is a Jem G.I. Joe Transformers Hasbro film. The what? I can't even. I really can't. Before we get to the downside of this film, which of course is the budget and the box office here, it should be noted that Isabella Kai Rice, who is the actress who played young Jem in this film, was nominated at the 37th Young Artist Awards for Best Performance in a Feature Film supporting young actress 13 and under. She lost to Isabella Crovetti in Joy, but I mean, this film, and when you hear the box office, you're going to be surprised. But this film, no Razzie nominations, like no bad award nominations. And it was nice to see Isabella Kai Rice actually, get nominated for that. This film, though, has a budget of only $5 million, which is quite surprising when you realize the size of the property. The worldwide gross on this film is a whopping $2.3 million. It only lasted 2 weeks in theaters. That's... Oi. Let me put this into perspective here. When this film debuted on the October 23rd weekend in 2015, it debuted at number 15. 15. I'm just going to put this out there. 15. It's definitely not the highest grossing debut that week. That was The Last Witch Hunter, which debuted at number 4. Number 6 debuting was Paranormal Activity: The Ghost Dimension. And number 13 debuting that week was Rock the Casbah. Yeah. This film didn't even crack $2 million. It didn't even crack $1.4 million in its debut weekend. Jem and the Holograms. To put this into perspective, and keep in mind, I can't even put an asterisk on this. It's not like this was, a small release. This was a wide release film. So I did some research. This is considered one of the largest wide release box office flops of all time.
Oh no.
Let me do the breakdown on here, okay? For movies that were released, and by the way, all these numbers come from Box Office Mojo, so I'm going to take them almost as like the holy Bible of box office numbers here. In movies that were released in over 2,000 theaters, all right, Jem and the Holograms ranks 12th for lowest box office during its box office run for a wide release film. And I have to put an asterisk on this one because it's worse than it seems. Much worse. Okay? Of those 12 films, 3 of them were re-releases. Number 2 was Toy Story. It was re-released during the pandemic in 2020. That's a low take. So we can write that one off because it's a re-release of Toy Story. At number 4 was the re-release of Saw on its 10th anniversary. So again, another re-release. And at number 11 was the re-release of The Nightmare Before Christmas. So let's take the re-releases out of the equation here. That puts Jem sitting at 9th worst. I'm also going to give a pass on a lot of films that were released during the pandemic because, of course, a lot of theaters were closed and people were, rightfully so nervous about going into the theater. So that eliminates The Empty Man, which was released in October of 2020, The Broken Hearts Gallery, which was released in September of 2020, Scoob, which was released in May of 2021, Profiles, which was released in 2021, The King's Daughter, which was released this year, 2022. So what does that leave us? That leaves us with Jem and the Holograms sitting at number 4 for worst box office take wide release. What was worse? If you take out all of those movies that we have given a pass, whether they're re-releases or pandemic releases, then at number 3, at number 5 overall, but at number 3 with our eliminations was Playmobil the movie. Yeah, that brought in a grand total of $656,000. At number 3 overall, but number 2 on our retracted list or reduced list is Delgo, which made only $511,920. And then at number 1 overall, no retractions, no asterisk on this one, is the Oogie Loves in the Big Balloon Adventure, which made only $443,000. So, in comparison to the Oogie Loves, Jem and the Hologram is a massive moneymaker.
I'm fascinated now. I want to watch.
The Oogie Loves in the Big Balloon Adventure. I have a sinking feeling that one probably qualifies. But as I'm telling you all of this, like these really, and there's no sugarcoating this either. Right? These are horrible numbers for a film that is, to quote Antoine, IPs and sequels.
Okay, I'm going to admit and confess that this one came and went. It wasn't even on my radar. I was aware of it. I remember hearing that they made a real life movie of Jem and the Holograms, and I thought, okay, that's cool. I don't know. I never gave it the attention that I should have. Now, friends, truth bomb here. This movie is good. It is really, really good. It has so much heart. And if you, like me, grew up watching the cartoon, give it a chance. Just give it, you know what? It'll cost you nothing because it's on, how did we watch it?
Well, we watched it off of Crave.
It's on Crave.
So if you're in Canada, you can watch it off Crave.
Okay. But you know what? Even if it's at your local video store on a DVD copy.
Wait, what's a local video store?
If that is still a thing. I'm sure it's on the internet. Everything's on the internet if you search. But give it a go. Because I was so pleasantly surprised and impressed by this story. Now, not necessarily the storyline, because they took a lot of liberties with the storyline, but as a story with characters that you grew up with, that you might remember from days past when, you were eating cereal on a Saturday morning.
You're getting all nostalgic and stuff.
It's so good. It is so good. And damn it, did it get dusty in my office when we were watching it? Oh my God.
She cried.
I cried.
She teared.
I did. I had a stream of tears.
Like, normally when I bring up a movie that we have to watch, Carrie's like in tears. Like, no, please don't make me watch the crappy movie again. No. She actually legit teared up at this one here. But all of that kind of leads to why we're talking about this film. Over on Metacritic, this film has a meta score of 42. And then over on Rotten Tomatoes, oh boy, the audience score is 40%. So, I mean, not horrible when you consider that this is considered a box office bomb. The tomatometer on this one is 22%. And I'm not going to lie, when you consider how much of a box office bomb this is, I mean, and again, you really can't sugarcoat that one. That number seems high in comparison to some of the other movies that we've talked about on this show. So before we get into the breakdown of it, 22% as a critic score, too high, too low? Like, what's your expectation of what that number was going to be when we were, started to talk about this film?
For the movie as a whole, I think it's low. I think it was misaligned.
Oh, no, for the movie, but as far as your expectation as to what the critic score would be, again, keeping in mind that this is considered one of the biggest box office flops of all time.
I am guessing, just taking a wild guess, that the critics held no nostalgia for the cartoon property.
I can see that.
And even at that, even looking beyond that, it's a good story. It is a very well told tale of a rise to fame, and more so of an everlasting love for family, I think. And that, at the core of this movie, is it was a pleasant surprise.
An everlasting love of family. You make it sound like a Fast and Furious movie. But let's get into the breakdown of this one here. Right? We always have Brazil. Just no. Let's get into the breakdown of this. And first, we have to start right at the top. Aubrey Peoples as Jerrica Benton, also known as Jem. How was Jerrica for you?
I'm not going to lie. At first, I was really having trouble accepting that she was Jem, or at least the real person behind Jem. In the cartoon, of course, which is what I was basing it on, even the alter ego, not even alter ego, Jem being the alter ego, even the real Jemica was, she was very different, just very different. I found that the actress who was playing Jemica was very.
Did you just call her Jemica? Put the two together. Okay. So let's put this out there, right? Because I think we almost need to get to the actual movie differences in comparison to the actual cartoon. So in the cartoon, of course, Jerica's father, who is a co-owner of Starlight Records, passes away. So basically, the company is left between her and Eric Raymond, who is the co-owner of Starlight Records, and of course, Jerica uses Synergy, which is this big musical, like giant, like B3 kind of Hammond organ kind of device that also happens to be a holographic projector. And Jem is this holographic representation of what people see when they see her on stage, her and her sisters who, they're all in the same house together, very much like this one. Here, Jerica is, one of four orphans that are in this house together with her quote unquote sisters, one of them actually being her sister. And then her sister takes this video of Jerica singing one of her songs, puts it on the internet, then all of a sudden, internet fame. And that's when everything kind of, steamrolls down the hill at that point. So the 80s cartoon is definitely much more, your typical Saturday morning, every episode is an action adventure kind of thing with a lot of really repetitive freaking songs thrown in. Like, anyone who complains about the repetitiveness of like Beyonce songs these days, go watch an old episode of 80s, Jem from Saturday morning cartoons. And those songs are just basically like the same line over and over. With
the mini music video montage.
Oh, when you consider when this show came out, I think it was like 1988 the show came out. Like, that's like prime MTV. So clearly this is, the MTV cartoon kind of thing. So, it makes sense, but.
As far as use of music, though, if I may, in this movie, the editing was phenomenal.
Oh, it was montage after montage, yeah.
There were so many montages. There were so many uses of a combination of the internet, like internet video, at really pivotal points, and the use of music in those moments was, I thought, brilliant.
Here's the thing: the fact that in this movie, Jerica is almost like not an unwilling internet sensation, but definitely not of her own design. That was thanks to Kimber. So the fact that they use all these YouTube videos, like these viral videos, almost as, parallel storytelling devices for certain points in this film, it makes sense. But even as we were watching this, you were sitting there going, did they not realize that YouTube wasn't a thing in the 80s? Because it wasn't. You have to modernize the story. You have to, right?
What I absolutely loved, was the use of her, because the entire story is about, she's trying to find herself, right? And hearing how important Jem is to the world and the population and her fans really helped cement, that she was indeed doing the right thing. And it was so powerful. And I thought it was fantastic.
Here's the thing. And I'm just, now narrowing on Aubrey Peoples, because how the story plays out, the differences between this movie and the cartoon, that has nothing to do with Aubrey Peoples as an actress and how she's playing Jerica. I think Jerica is best when she's playing off of the four of them, right? and against Molly Ringwald as Aunt Bailey. You know, when Aubrey Peoples is supposed to be like, you know, Jem, the star kind of thing, it feels a little awkward and at times. She's best when she's just Jerica and, you know, with her sisters and, you know, sometimes Rio, and, you know, that's when she really shines in this. And I will say, like, the fact that she actually does a lot of the singing in this herself, like, kudos to her. Like, that she's got a great voice. Like, you can't go wrong with that. Speaking of sisters, though, we have to move on to Stephanie Scott, who played Kimber, the younger sister to Jerica. How was Kimber for you?
Oh, she was so great. She played the part perfectly. Yeah, I mean, it was so interesting as they rose to fame, because I think they could have done so much more with Kimber's character. Like, I mean, she was the one that started it all by posting the video.
By not deleting the video and actually putting it up on YouTube.
Posting it, yeah. Right? But, I mean, even, you know, in... would you call it narration? The first scene where Jerica was kind of like explaining to the camera, you know, the sharing the backstory, but it was more of a narrative.
Yeah.
Anyway, I mean, she had mentioned that, like, her sister was posting her life story, you know, before it was even cool, right? Like,
yeah.
Like Kimber wanted the internet fame, and she was even quoted saying, like, "You're internet famous, and that's better than being, like, really famous."
Yeah, right up there with, you know, water skiing squirrel. I mean, here's the thing. I love the fact that at no point did they have Kimber turn into the, you know, the super jealous sister, you know, because she's the one who's, you know, posting her life out loud on all these, you know, social media platforms, whether it be Instagram or YouTube or whatever the case. And then it's Jerica that gets all the attention. And yes, there was a bit of a storm off there, but at no point was it, you know, it wasn't tropey. Right? It wasn't like, you know, angsty teen sister wants to be the famous one and all that. Like this is a very supportive sister, and even despite like the little hiccup in the road, which, by the way, just go watch the movie yourself.
Extremely supportive sister, I might add, like, to the point that there could have, or what they did with this storyline, with regards to the relationship between Jerica and her father. That could have been played out very differently.
Could have been a huge wedge. Absolutely, yeah.
If Kimber at all had been...
jealous of the attention?
Yeah, like jealous, or just kind of like almost... I don't know. I think jealous is probably the best way of putting it.
Yeah.
But she wasn't. She was incredibly supportive. And it was almost kind of odd that there wasn't more of a connection between Kimber and her father, it seemed. Like, the entire story centered around Jerica.
Yeah.
And that I found that a bit odd.
I'm glad it didn't go down that whole YA route of, like, you know, again, like, you know, sister rivalry kind of thing. Like, no, these two girls grew up basically having lost their father, basically having lost everything that they have. Thankfully, they ended up with Aunt Bailey and in a very supportive environment. You know, these two sisters clearly have each other's backs no matter what, even despite the, you know, the bumps in the road, and that never gets, you know, that's never shaken. Right, that bond is never shaken. I think that's solid. Plus, she was just adorable in this. Like honestly, she was just having way too much fun. Aurora Perrineau, who played Shanna, you know, the fashion obsessed one of the orphan sisters here. How was Aurora Perrineau as Shanna for you?
Oh, she was great. She was so great. Like, I think all four girls played their parts so well.
See, I find of the four, Shanna was the one that was given the least amount to do. Like, and that's it's not that she, played the role poorly or something like that. It's just that of the four, right? Obviously, Kimber and Jerica are going to be the big, the big focus of the four. Aja gets to be the badass, which is, pretty cool and all that. But Shanna just seemed there.
I think that was very much in her character, though. I don't think it was like that she was in any way undercut. I think in the dynamic of the four women, she played her part well.
Oh, I mean, she added a layer to the foursome, which is great. But again, like, with Hayley Kiyoko, who played Aja in this, like, she gets to be the badass. Like, she gets to be the one who somehow hacks into the Starlight Records, like, computer system and whatnot. Like, she actually has a job, right? Kimber, Jerica, they have something to do. Shanna is basically the guitarist, and that's about it.
But again, I think even in the household dynamic of the four girls before they rose to fame, that was pretty much like she just kind of went along to get along. And I don't think that, again, she certainly wasn't the badass, so she's not really going to vie for any attention. She's probably the peacekeeper, really.
But yet also Jerica's kind of the peacekeeper as well. So it's almost like Shanna is redundant at this point. I don't know. Maybe it's just me.
Someone had to play guitar. And the piano.
Or the keytar.
The
keytar. I'm not gonna lie. When you see Aunt Bailey, and then you realize, holy crap, that's Molly Ringwald. It took me a minute to realize, holy crap, that's Molly Ringwald.
Well, when you told me, I was like, what do you mean? I thought that was Jenny Garth or Jenny. Yeah, Jenny Garth?
Yeah. But nope, it's Molly Ringwald. This was her first theatrical release film since appearing in Not Another Teen Movie 14 years prior to this film. So, the return to the big screen of Molly Ringwald here. I freaking loved her in this. Like,
oh, she was so great. She was so great. She held her own against Juliette Lewis.
Yeah, Erica Raymond.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, the thing I like about Aunt Bailey, right, is that here's a woman who took in these girls, right, basically runs this orphan house, is doing her best to kind of keep everything afloat all on her own, meanwhile trying to provide these four girls with, not just a good roof over their head and food on their plate kind of thing, but, also teaching them the importance of being together. Like, I don't know about you, but if I tried to get my kids, our kids to, stop fighting by all of a sudden like bust into harmony kind of thing.
Nope.
Yeah, that don't fly. First of all, I couldn't even carry a tune to save my life as it is, and I'm in a band, so go figure that one. But there's just something so sweet about Aunt Bailey, right? And I think the way that Molly Ringwald plays her rubs off on the other four in a way that it totally makes sense that this is the woman that kind of, not only keeps them together, but keeps them going, keeps them creative.
Well, I mean, that's even addressed in the narrative, right? Like when it was said that, 5 women in the same house.
Yeah.
Like that's a recipe for disaster from the beginning.
Yep. Weirdest family ever.
Yeah. But they make it work. And I think it's because of their complementary personalities that it just works.
Yeah.
And their family.
And freaking Molly Ringwald. Like, come on. It's Molly freaking Ringwald. All right. But we got to move on to Rio, as played by Ryan Guzman. His name is Rio. That's correct. Kind of like the meet cute in this one, chip on the shoulder, living under the, his mom's thumb kind of thing. But how was Rio for you?
He was perfect. He was very charming. And, I don't know how much I can say, but
I'll say it. I mean, the movie was released in 2015 and no one went to go see it. So
the ending twist, right? The ending twist where he finds his dad's will. They go searching for Jem's earrings, by the way, in the Starlight safe. And he finds his dad's will and learns that he is eligible to take over the company as soon as he feels he's ready. So that was the pivotal moment where he stood up to his mom and it was just so, it was like at this point you're just rooting for him. Like,
this is going to sound really weird, right? So of course Juliette Lewis plays Erica Raymond, who is Rio's mother in this. As I'm watching this, I'm like, there is zero chance that, I'll be honest, I have not looked at their ages at this point, that Erica Raymond is Rio's mother. Like, it does not look like the proper age difference between the two. Like, say what you will. Either Ryan Guzman looks too old or Juliette Lewis just looks way too young. But is it just me or did it feel like a very odd kind of pairing for mother-son?
I didn't see it that way at all. I saw Juliette Lewis as being much older than her character. Like, almost kind of like she's just trying so hard to be hip and edgy and just the heiress of this company that, she was brilliant. She played the part so perfectly. She was evil and kind of like, what's the word for it? It's almost kind of like sweet, but like sour.
Oh, we're going to get to Juliette Lewis in a second, but I just want to put this into perspective here, okay? Juliette Lewis was born in 1973. Ryan Guzman is born in 1987. So you do the math. That means Juliette Lewis had Ryan Guzman at 14. That's what we're looking at as far as reality goes.
If you look at the character, though, it is quite possible.
Juliette Lewis just doesn't age. I'm just going to put it out there. Juliette Lewis does not age.
She is so cool.
Right?
I do love her.
I think with Rio, though, it kind of felt like a means to an end. Like, I could see in a Jem and the Holograms 2 Electric Boogaloo kind of sequel, because then at that point, Jerica and Rio are the ones running Starlight, and then it's Erica Raymond who's trying to topple that empire. That makes sense as far as the cartoon goes.
Of which they set it up beautifully with the introduction of the Misfits.
They did.
In the post-credit scene, and talking about the previous relationship.
We are the Misfits. We are the Misfits. But speaking of Juliette Lewis here, I'm going to let you go on about Erica Raymond first, but your thoughts on basically the gender swap baddie, because of course in the cartoon it was Eric Raymond. Now we have Erica Raymond. So your thoughts on Juliette Lewis?
I thought she was absolute perfection. It was an interesting twist that the heir to Starlight was indeed the Raymond family and not
the Bentons, yeah.
Right. So I mean, they definitely, took liberties, but I thought it worked out so beautifully because of how they introduced or how they portrayed Jerica and Kimba's father.
Mm-hmm. I am surprised that we have not yet mentioned a comparable on this, but here's where I have to. Okay. When you're talking about this film, you're almost going to be almost involuntarily drawn to draw comparisons to Josie and the Pussycats. Right. And I think Juliette Lewis's portrayal of Erica Raymond is very much akin to Parker Posey's character in Josie and the Pussycats. But I don't think that's a good thing.
No, you know what? I thought she was more of like a Cruella de Vil.
I could see that, but just hear me out on this, because it's not like I don't like Juliette Lewis and what she did with Erica Raymond, but I just don't think tonally it fits the film. Okay? Hear me out on this one. Jerica and her sisters become internet famous and then become like, it almost feels like this Vox Lux kind of story. The Vox Lux, of course, being the film with Natalie Portman. And then all of a sudden it switches to this like little action adventure type thing, and then it switches back to this, you know, not necessarily angsty, but definitely a bit more YA style story of, you know, the perils of the rise and fall of fame. And here's Juliette Lewis coming in, chewing up the scenery, really enjoying playing the baddie. But it feels like she's playing the baddie in a film that's supposed to be more comedic than it is.
I disagree. I definitely disagree, because being in her position of the heir and CEO of Starlight Enterprise, she was a tough cookie. Like, you could tell that this is a music business badass. Like, she, you know, clearly, right? I mean, she's probably in a male-dominated industry, having to deal with a lot of, in fact, what I loved the most is that she wasn't just trying to book and sign bands. She took it to the next level, where she wanted to create a product, a marketable product. And it wasn't about the music at that point anymore. I mean, the contract was for what, 2 shows for Jem to play?
3 shows.
3? Okay. Anyway, which, by the way, I have issue. The only issue I have with this movie was the choice of song that they did at the final show.
Okay.
I thought that it was very...
boring?
Yes. It was very diluted compared to...
Youngblood.
What they could have done.
I'm glad you brought up the music, because it was actually on my list of things to talk about here. And again, we have to kind of draw comparisons to Josie and the Pussycats, because we're talking about a movie remake of a previous cartoon, a Saturday morning cartoon that was based around an all-female band, right? The comparables are there. Again,
the same, tensions within the band.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think it's so much more, though. I am going to stand firm in saying that this storyline had so much more going on. Okay.
Josie and the Pussycats knew exactly what it was, right? It was a comedy film, right? It was very much a comedy film, right? And as far as, for lack of a better term, a musical, when you realize that, both movies are about bands, I think Josie and the Pussycats, and you'll probably agree with me on this one, had the much better soundtrack.
Okay, but the important point to note is that Josie wanted to rise to fame. Jerica didn't.
No, she didn't.
She didn't even like being on camera.
No.
When, her sister would go around with a camcorder all the time.
And at least Josie and the Pussycats showed that they were a band beforehand. Like, really, this didn't even feel like a band beforehand at all. It's like they were lip syncing on video, and then all of a sudden, like, oh, by the way, crap, we're a band now. Oh, well.
Well, I think that they grew up with music, though.
Yeah, no, I can appreciate the fact that they probably do play music together. And I will say the passage of time is an illusion in this film. Just because it seems like everything kind of happens all at once. Like, wow, I get flash in the pan kind of thing, and fame hits you hard really fast. But
you know what kind of shook me, as much as I will defend this movie, was the transition to, okay, they're on their way to LA. She puts Kimber. No. What is the name of the little
robot?
Robot.
Synergy.
Oh my God, I should know that. It's just that it's not a hologram with keyboards around.
No one puts Synergy in the corner here.
I know, but she throws Synergy into her backpack at like a last
minute
thought,
kind of thing. Yeah,
a last thought, before packing to go to LA, and then it turns into a scavenger hunt, really.
Yeah.
With clues from her deceased father, and Synergy starts projecting these maps and stuff, and everyone's just kind of okay, well, let's go on an adventure and break curfew. It was like, wait, what?
Right?
like at what point did it lead up to this? And a side note, at what point did Rio ever consult the band when sharing the name Jem and the Holograms
right
with Rolling Stone? Like, I'm sorry. Okay, yeah, you may now officially own the company, but at least consult the damn band before giving them a full name.
Yeah.
Like, come on.
Yeah. I mean, I get that's your roll credits moment kind of thing, but also we need to talk about the Synergy storyline here. Okay. First of all, Synergy, really cute as a robot. It's cute as hell.
It was very much akin to like
BB-8.
WALL-E.
Yeah, WALL-E, BB-8, like that kind of droid, right? Which is fine, right? But first of all, and I got a diatribe here, and please jump in where you're going to defend this here. But I'm going to be grumpy old man diatribing here for a second.
Would you like a Snickers?
You might as well get the Snickers bar ready because I'm going to need it afterwards. Okay.
Here we go.
Leading up to the point where Synergy somehow comes to life, right? It's like I can buy the story, right? Kimber puts the video up. They become internet famous kind of thing. They sign the deal with Starlight Records. They go to LA. They get to that first show kind of thing. And then all of a sudden this robot wakes the up, right? And then all of a sudden it turns into, like you said, a scavenger hunt. And then Synergy, they get the second piece of the puzzle. Synergy's like, yeah, I'm going to bed, right? I'm not going to give you any hints whatsoever. And then it's from some weird, Adam West era Batman, train of thought that allows him to realize that the earrings are what, basically is the final piece. Meanwhile, you got like another 30-minute section of like, okay, well, we're going to skip the scavenger hunt storyline, then get back to the band storyline, then get back to the Synergy storyline. This film, to me, does not know what it wants to be.
I think I'm going to add to that in that at one point the sisters had a turnaround.
Mm-hmm.
Because
that was fast. Like
what? They're in a limo on the way to the airport, and then boom, they're. How did they know where to find her?
Well, I get Kimber would have a good idea of where to go, and Kimber probably told the rest of them. That part, also for the record here, right? If I were ever to want to leave something for our kids, right, to look back on, I swear to God, I am not going to create some weird scavenger hunt around the entire Toronto area in the hopes that they have the wherewithal to figure out what the I was thinking. Like, can you just put it, like, write a letter, put it in a will.
But, oh my God, the projection scene with the record of the father.
This is where she cried. I
cried. And then the tiny 8-year-old Jerica comes into the room and hugs her. Holy I still have I have the goosebumps and the tears. Oh, okay. You know what? If you're going to watch this movie, watch it for that scene, because when it all comes down to it, it's about family, and it was so touching.
I think at that point I'd be looking at the projection and knowing that you can say whatever you want because it's just a hologram, right? Like, Dad, could you not have made it simple? Like, put instructions in the box with everything that I need rather than have me try to figure your weird brain out.
Okay, but I'm going to say that half of the lesson was for her to find herself.
I am not going to do that to our kids.
And if
It's as simple as that.
if she had not gotten to LA, like none of that's the thing. Synergy was literally just sitting on her shelf for what, 10, 12 years, arguably, maybe more, and then just magically comes to life and starts projecting maps. Like nobody questioned this. Nobody thought there was anything, obscure going on. But I think that they tried to jam an entire season of Jem and the Hologram cartoons into a 2-hour movie? I don't even think it was 2 hours.
No, it was close to 2 hours.
There was a lot going on.
But here's the interesting thing too as well. This film came out October 2015, right? 2 months later, December 2015, Star Wars The Force Awakens comes out. End of that film, right? R2-D2 comes to life for whatever reason and starts holograph projecting a map that tells you where Luke is. I can't believe I'm comparing Jem and the Holograms to Star Wars The Force Awakens. You have you literally have one of the biggest box office bombs of all time and the record holder for largest North American domestic box office gross.
You're about to break the internet.
2 months apart in theaters, Droid wakes up for no reason, shows a holographic map, and Jem came first. Like I recognize these films. They take a while
send your questions and comments too. It's not that bad.
I cannot believe send me a Snickers bar.
Wow.
Right? But I just find it fascinating that this film comes out and then 2 months later, R2-D2 wakes up for no reason whatsoever and shows the map so Rey can find Luke. I'm just putting it out there. Of course, this is the remake of the 1980s Saturday morning cartoon, of which you were a massive fan of, right? Like Jem was your jam, right, in the 80s. So I need to put this to you. Does this film do the cartoon enough justice?
Yes.
Why?
Oh, because there was just enough nostalgia. The merchandising that was associated with the cartoon. In fact, one of the YouTube videos of the fans who were, sharing their love and how Jem was so important to them and for their own personal reasons. One of the T-shirts, it was simply just a black T-shirt with Jem, written in that so familiar logo with the pink and the stars. I had that T-shirt, that exact T-shirt, and it just, the nostalgia factor, if anything, is everything.
Okay, I'm glad you brought that up, though, because this is actually one of the controversies of this film. So apparently, and this is just things I have read while I was researching for this film, they had like this big thing going on where people would send in videos talking about Jem kind of thing and what the cartoon kind of meant to them. And they put these videos in the film, almost as if in the context that they're talking about Jem and the Holograms, the live action. So they're part of the storyline. Like, these are the fans of this band rather than just these people are talking about Jem themselves. Even the videos of the celebrities that they have where they're talking about, like Dwayne Johnson is in this. Right? And he's talking about how this song and it's so badass and the whole works. He's talking about Taylor Swift's Bad Blood in that clip. The whole thing with Chris Pratt talking about, I dated Jem or whatever. That was from a clip from like the press tour of the Lego movie. And a lot of these clips are taken out of context. Now, these fans are still talking about how much Jem meant to them, right? But from what I've read, there are some people who are really kind of ticked off that this is the context that it's put into.
Yeah, they didn't, I could have understood if they did like an open call for, hey, submit a, 10 to 15 second clip of, the Jem cartoon that you grew up watching, especially taking celebrity video clips. That's kind of shady.
Okay, well,
did they not let them know?
Here's the thing. John Chu, of course, directed G.I. Joe Retaliation, so he's worked with Dwayne Johnson before. So I would not be surprised if they reached out to Dwayne Johnson and said, "Look, this clip, can we just take this section of the clip, put it in, and treat it like this kind of context?" And Dwayne Johnson seems pretty cool, with everything. And the fact that he has worked with John Chu in the past means there's probably that working relationship. And I
can only hope that's the case.
Yeah, everything at that point had to be on the level, right? So with the celebrities and all that, that's on the level, right? But the fans. Now, admittedly, there, at these concert scenes where, with Jem's 3 shows, apparently a lot of those concerts are filled with Jem fans.
Oh,
right?
Love that.
So
I didn't get a call though.
That's cool. But also, Christy Mack, the creator of Jem, had no real say in making of this film and didn't really know that it was happening. And this is her creation, right? Yes, she's in the film and they kind of made amends with that kind of stuff, but she didn't write it. She didn't have any say in the storyline.
Can they do that? Can they take
yes, because Hasbro owns the property. So it's kind of like, the Bob Kane estate has no say in what DC does with Batman, right? The estate of the creators of Superman don't have the say in what DC does with that property.
Now hold on though.
They still have it in the credits, created by.
No. This is a chicken and egg conversation.
Mm-hmm.
So you said that because Hasbro has the rights, but what came first? It would have had to have been the cartoon.
It was created for Hasbro.
Okay, that's the difference. Because the cartoon is what built the fame, the popularity, and then they created the figures based on the cartoon, but it was
I mean, with Transformers, it was kind of like different, right? Because of course the toys came first, and then Marvel, they went to Marvel in order to kind of help flush out the storyline, and Marvel created the comic book, and then they did the cartoon kind of thing, and that's how that kind of blew up. But for here, yes, it was the same production company as I recall that did the G.I. Joe and Transformers cartoons, but of course it's all under the Hasbro banner. So yes, Hasbro owns the property, but of course the original idea was created by it. And that's the thing with a lot of comic book properties. Like, the characters are created by these people for these companies, but in these contracts, it's the company that owns the rights to the character, right? So even if you were to create the greatest comic book character of all time for, say, a Marvel, and then you decided to go work for DC, well, that's fine, but Marvel still has the rights to the character. So it's one of those things where Hasbro has the rights to Jem, and at least she's in it and kind of acknowledges being in it kind of thing. But, it's just one of the things where the original creator of the cartoon was not involved as far as the story and production elements of this film.
Can I just say, even the onstage presence of Jem in the movie, it wasn't bad, but I just think that it was almost kind of like a diluted version of Jem from what I would have expected being a fan of the cartoon.
Yeah, I was getting some serious Sia vibes, especially in the second, the solo performance, right? I get it, and it's of its time. Obviously you're not going to go out there and put out some like 80s glammy poppy kind of stuff kind of thing, because in 2015 people will go, yeah, no, right? Like you're going to mimic like the biggest stars of the time,
It's funny you say Sia, because I was very much thinking Lady Gaga.
Yeah, you were going to say Lady Gaga.
I was.
weren't you?
I cut myself off as I was saying it. So.
Well, I mean, I say tomatometer every single episode, so clearly the emphasis is in the right spot here. Before we get to our MVPs, though, Twitter has spoken on this film. Our good friends over at Movie Date Night, Greg and Lauren, hey, how you guys doing? They said, I remember this movie being in my local cinema for literally one day. Sadly, there was no encore performance, and the tour was canceled for Jem and the Holograms. Guess that means I'll never get my Michael Bay directed Jabberjaw film complete with the shark drum solo. No. Just no.
I love that, by the way.
Right? Also, at Gem Italy. Yes, at Gem Italy has chimed in with, I will let my custom dolls collection answer that question. By the way, I took a look at her website, and yes, this at Gem Italy has created a custom line of Jem and the Holograms, the movie doll collection here.
Oh my gosh.
Including Erica Raymond and the whole works. So yeah, that's out there. She also says, lots of potential there. We were robbed of a truly outrageous sequel. And this is one of those films that goes down.
Yes. You're
going to start going shopping, aren't you?
Big fan.
Thank you, both of you, Movie Date Night and at Gem Italy, for those comments here. But this, Gem Italy does bring out a point here in that this goes down as one of those films that called it shot for a sequel, and we've talked about a few of them on this show, like Mac and Me and Masters of the Universe, films that called their shots, that we're going to make a sequel, and the sequel has yet to happen. So I'm going to put this to you, knowing the box office response to the first film and the overall 22% tomatometer of this film, are we ever going to see Jem and the Holograms 2?
I hope so. If I can make it so, I would. Can I borrow like $5-6 million? Anyone?
I'm just curious though, if you're going to borrow the $5 or $6 million, are you going to use it to make a Jem and the Holograms 2, or are you just going to buy a bunch of custom made Jem and the Holograms movie dolls?
Yes.
Okay. So it is time to nominate your truly outrageous MVP of Jem and the Holograms.
Juliette Lewis.
Really?
Yep. Miss Erica Raymond. Oh, she was perfect. She was so spicy and just like again, she had that Cruella de Vil vibe, but she was kind of like so sweet yet so completely sour. I loved her. She was great.
She was, for lack of a better analogy, she was very Saturday morning cartoon.
Yes, and she played it perfectly.
I just don't think the film lent itself to a Saturday morning cartoon villain, but if her job is to go in there to be a Saturday morning cartoon villain, then she did her job well. She's not my MVP though. I initially considered Molly Ringwald to be my MVP, but I have to hand it to Kimber, Stephanie Scott. There's just something about the younger sister kind of thing, and that she's the engine that drives the bus in all of this, right? Jerica doesn't want nothing to do with none of this, right? She just wants to make sure that somehow they've got money in order to keep the house and keep the family together and all that. Kimber's the one that seems to be having the most fun out of everybody. And she's not only a reminder for Jerica to have fun with life and not to, worry it away. Not waste it away, but worry it away. But she also reminds Jerica to believe in herself and her own talents. Like, there is a lot of unspoken motivation that comes out of Kimber in this, and I think Stephanie Scott kind of killed it in the role.
But oh my God, can we give mad props to the dad? That scene.
Nope.
I was not expecting this movie to have me sobbing.
I will give that scene its due, but if I'm Jerica, I'm literally screaming at the hologram saying, you could have made it a little easier there, Dad.
Oh.
Yeah.
No.
Parents, please do not leave some random scavenger hunt in the wilds of the city for your children and, stash it away in a busted down little robot that's going to come to life randomly for no reason whatsoever.
But you know what? All of the pieces of the puzzle that made synergy work in the end were things that meant something.
Oh, absolutely.
Everything from the guitar, right? And it was never explained how
that guitar. Well, no, it explained that the open air club was the club that Jerica and Kimber's dad always wanted to bring them to.
But how did the guitar get there?
That's a very, very good question. Although I have to laugh, and it's story time here on this one here. So that scene at the first show where the power just straight cuts out kind of thing, and they have to kind of just keep on going. We've said it before. I'm in a band, and we have had that show where the power cuts out of the entire damn town that we're in, and we somehow have to, just try to our best to keep the party going. For the record, "We Will Rock You" is a great song to sing when there's zero power in the entire town, and it's the only thing you can do. Stomp your feet, clap your hands. That's the show you're going to put on.
Well, now you have another option.
Yes, if we have random deceased father's guitar hanging on the wall of the club. That's pretty much how it boils down to that one. Carrie, before we go, I need to put this to you. The audience score is 40%. The tomatometer is 22. Where are you, the Jem fan of the two of us, putting this film?
I'm saying it's in the 60s. It was unfairly maligned because it was very well done. It did take a certain amount of liberties from the cartoon, but you know what? I don't hate that.
I don't think you could make this film today without taking some liberties from that cartoon.
And you know what? It was so good for the nostalgia factor. Like, I still, I only saw it yesterday, but I'm still replaying it in my mind, and I'm like, oh, you know what? They did a great job with it.
Right.
It is so worth a watch. And yeah, you know what? It was enjoyable. It was everything it needed to be. It was funny, but it wasn't overly funny. It was a bit of a convoluted tale, but in the end, all the pieces came together. They did a great job with it. And I think they handled a nostalgic property with care.
I will say, if you're expecting Josie and the Pussycats, you're expecting the wrong movie, right? And yes, you're going to make the comparisons to the two. It's inevitable. Don't, right? Just put Josie and the Pussycats out of your mind, even though, and I looked it up, that film qualifies for this show. Barely, but Josie and the Pussycats is an under 60% film.
No.
I think it's sitting at like 53, and I freaking love that film. Yeah. That's a 20.
Next on, it's not that bad.
No, we only have a few episodes left for 2022, so that's a 2023 mission right there. Also, to all of our listeners, by the way, thank you for all of the listening that you guys have done. We had a chance to take a look at our Spotify stats for artists, and I am shocked and humbled by all of you that have listened to the show at this point in time. But as far as Jem and the Holograms go, give it a watch, right? It's, in hindsight, it's actually not that bad a film. It's quite enjoyable. It's definitely not the box office bomb well, it is the box office bomb, but it's not the bomb that you think it is. It's actually a pleasant film. It's not angsty. It's not too Saturday morning cartoon. It's definitely not goofy, but it's a fun ride. So find it, watch it, enjoy it. Carrie, thank you so much for joining me down this road. I'm sure I think you had more fun going down this road than I did on this one. But you know, every now and then we get to visit your childhood instead of mine, so that's all good. And to you, our listeners, thank you for being truly outrageous. Now, you guys know the drill. If there is a film out there that is unfairly maligned or you think is so bad that there's no way in heck that we can find anything good to say about it, hit us up on Twitter at NotThatBadCast or on Facebook at facebook.com/NotThatBadCast. Let us know and we will watch it. We will dissect it, and we will find the truly outrageous things to say about it because we are looking for those A grades in B movies. Until next time, she's Carrie, I'm Jay, you're awesome. This is It's Not That Bad. Take care.
Hey folks, Stefan Shirazi and Renee Richardson here from the Metallica Report.
And we are proud members of the Pantheon podcast family, where the best of music and podcasts unite.
We've got something pretty cool for you. We're giving away an exclusive Metallica merch package worth over $250.
That's a whole lot of Scary Guys, skulls, M72, and other sought-after Metallica swag. And we've made it easy for you to win. Follow and share the Metallica Report, and you're in the game. Go to pantheonpodcast.com/Metallica, enter your email, and hit that button to be entered to win.
And just like that, you're eligible for our monthly exclusive Metallica merch package.
And guess what, rockers? You can enter every month, so just do it. And while we love our global brothers and sisters, the lawyers won't let us ship outside the U.S.